In the room, I mentioned that I never really knew who when I was hired, I did not know who George Lucas was. I had seen American Graffiti, but I didn't make necessarily a connection with the person. And the first several weeks I was working there, I was working late at night, and a guy came in, had a beard, hair like yours, you know, at 20, he was 30 years old then. And I thought he was just a friend of a friend, you know, coming in. And so I would explain to him, you know, these are the bad guys, and the guys in the X-Wings are the good guys, and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And he would just, you know, ask some questions and then walk away. And he came back again another night, and same kind of thing. I just explained things to him. But I didn't realize till we were in the screening room that all the questions went towards him. So I realized he was the director.
Yeah.
The Millennium Falcon is a real special model. It's a very unusual shape. You know, that first one we eventually did about 2 feet. But it was apparent, they must have felt that I was good at what I was doing. So they said, why don't you do that hero model? And I got to do, not all of it, but a lot of it. You know. The whole engine part on the back side, I used a lot of Formula One cars.
Okay.
There was model kits from Formula One in the 70s, you know, Tyrrell and Williams and Ferrari and all those kind of cars they used. In the Millennium Falcons, we built, I think, about 5 of them, 5 or 6. But it had to do with the shooting. It's a big one that was as big, was so heavy. When George Lucas wanted the Millennium Falcon to go through the asteroid belt, it had to go like this. Well, the big model was so heavy, it took 4 people to lift it, that it went like that. Whereas the one that was 2 foot, it didn't weigh very much.
Yeah.
And so it could maneuver. And you notice that from Star Wars to Empire Strikes Back and Jedi, that the Millennium Falcon was much more active model. You know, it isn't really sad. It's kind of fun, actually, because you make multiples of something. You make multiples of the X-Wings or multiples of the TIE fighters. And it's usually, it's a big action thing. You set it all up and you get the explosives all ready, and then, you push the camera in, and it's, it's actually kind of exciting. Yeah, this is me in the jungle in Guatemala. And it was unusual. There were only 3 of us that went to Guatemala. And originally we were going to have one of the native guides that helped us in the jungle, that he was going to be up in the tower, but he was too stiff. They would tell him to, like, hold his hand up, and he'd go like that. So I was the only one that didn't have any kids. There were 3 of us, but the other 2 guys had children, and it was very dangerous. When I was 30 years old, it looked dangerous, and when I went back when I was 60-some years old, it almost looked suicidal. It was so, because it was, an Egyptian pyramid is 52 degrees, about like this. A Guatemalan pyramid is like very steep like this, and so since we were in a tower at the edge, it was like 300 feet down. And so when I went back there, it was like, whoa, look at that. But it was very unusual. I wasn't supposed to be the guard, but I did turn out. And also, what I'm holding in my hand, we didn't take any props with us.
What's this?
So they said, well, we got to have something. So I just took some tape and a light meter and a couple of other things out of the camera case and strapped them together with a tape. And it's nothing other than a light meter and something else. You know, what happened is, on the first 3 films, Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi, we made models that were this big, 2 meters, that kind of, probably very rarely did we make one 3 or 4 meters. And, but as time went on, by the time we started to do Phantom Menace, that computer graphics had come along. So computer graphics started to take over the smaller models, partly because they were moving fast. And if a model was moving really slow, sometimes a real model would be better. If a model is moving fast, it can be CG. And so we started making big models. Instead of doing the ships, we started to do environments, like the pod race arena, or the execution arena, or Mustafar. Mustafar was like the size of a tennis court. It was big. Yeah. You know, the one with the lava came down the hill and everything. We could tilt it up and on the back to make the lava run faster. So a lot of it involved sculpting bigger things, and whereas Star Wars and Empire and Jedi were small things, smaller. Well, it probably Empire was, and that you know, the original group was 100 people, and George Lucas invited about 6 or 7 of us to move up north to Northern California, because the first film was done in Los Angeles, where I lived, and then George Lucas lived in Northern California, so he wanted to do the film where he lived, and so he asked 6 of us to move up north. Yeah. But the building was empty. You know, it was just an empty building, no heater, no walls, no nothing, and so we had to really start all over again, and that was a big challenge. Yeah. We stayed up many nights, and there was an interesting thing too, that to make the different rooms, we asked the carpenters just to give us a bunch of 2x4s, long boards, and we just laid them, you know, instead of doing a drawing of how the building should be, we just laid the 2x4s. Like walls here and a doors there and another room's over here, and we'll put the boards around there, and then the carpenters just followed what we did with the boards. Yeah. My feelings about The Force Awakens, I was gratified in one way that they didn't ruin, you know, you're always wondering if they're going to ruin it, you know, and I don't think they did. My hope is that it's a springboard for something else again, because the Force Awakens is a little bit like the first Star Wars, you know, with a girl, you know, instead on a planet, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But it looked great, you know, it really looked great. So, and the story is a reasonable, good story. So we're just hoping that the next one will be even more exciting. Yeah. But I liked it. It got rid of some of the bad things of Sith and Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace. You know, you could certainly do without the Jar Jar Binks and things like that. You know, he didn't come back. Yeah. I still have dreams sometimes. Not very often, but I have dreams that, you know, they'd come to me and they say, "We have to have you come back and help us," you know, and we need some help in doing the new Star Wars films. But only once in a while do I have a dream like that. You know. For the most part, I enjoy being retired.